Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Aliens Invaded. I, Chef Become the Strongest Human. Chapter 91. Shui Ruyan's talent is very strong, and with Zhang Tian's help, she has made rapid progress. At this moment, her strength was fully demonstrated. The characteristics of the special profession of Qi Refiner allow Shui Ruyan to switch between close and long-range combat styles. Likewise, it is possible to merge two styles together. Zhang Tian just swept the formation beside him, watching Shui Ruyan kill the fire frog and fire fish tribe in a very short time. A very perfect ending. Shui Ruyan not only gained experience, but Zhang Tian also gained food reserves. After killing the fire frog tribe and fire fish tribe here, Zhang Tian and Shui Ruyan did not stop, but continued to move forward. Zhang Tian was worried about another accident, so he decided to kill more of the fire frogs and fire fish tribes now that he could encounter them. After noon, Zhang Tian and Shui Ruyan hurried on and finally arrived at the third line of defense. The so-called third line of defense is a defense base standing in the area directly in front of the space-time gate base. The scale of the entire base is only slightly smaller than that of the space-time gate base. Looking from a distance, one can see a mesh formation spreading out, extending along the base towards both sides. A little further away, you can also see a tower-like building, also standing with the light of the formation. Here is the area in the third direction. The meaning of the defense base's existence is to drive a nail into this place. If there is an alien attack, the defense base must be captured first. After all, if you directly bypass the defense base, you will be flanked by the defense base and the space-time gate base. In addition, the defense base is at this location, and there are formations to defend the left and right directions. If you want to go around it, you will inevitably have to travel a little longer. Zhang Tian and Shui Ruyan quickly passed the identity authentication, but were blocked after entering the defense base. You candidates for the martial arts college entrance examination this time. The scope of your activities is within the third line of defense, and you are not allowed to go out. The examiner who was stationed at the base of the defense line and came over in advance shook his head. Examiner, we are confident in our own strength and can cope with those foreign races. Faced with the obstruction, Shui Ruyan explained. However, the examiner still shook his head. If you leave the third line of defense and enter the front, you will likely encounter the Fire Feather clan. Although the Fire Feather clan's army cannot cross the first line of defense, some scouts will take a detour and lurk over. These Fire Feather tribes who came to probe for information, as well as the Fire Frog tribe and Fire Fish tribe led by them, are stronger and more desperate. Because they also know that once discovered, they have little chance of survival, and they will trade their lives with you at all costs. The examiner still shook his head and said to Zhang Tian and Shui Ruyan in front of him, "This is a rule, and it is also for your own good. Stay within the third line of defense. The number of exploration teams from the Fire Frog clan and Fire Fish clan will only increase. This is already a big test for you." The examiner was very patient and understood the thoughts of Zhang Tian and Shui Ruyan. Young and talented students are always arrogant and want to perform well and show their uniqueness. As someone who has experienced this, I understand these feelings and thoughts very well. Zhang Tian and Shui Ruyan then left the defense base and looked at each other in silence. For Shui Ruyan, it's not a big deal whether she goes to the front or not. The problem is Zhang Tian. It's a pity. I originally thought I could try the Fire Feather clan this time, but in the end I didn't even have the chance to hunt them. Zhang Tian sighed. The examiner also had good intentions and followed the rules. Shui Ruyan also felt it was a pity. She knew that Zhang Tian's strength was far from what it seemed. At present, the scope of the examination has suddenly increased, and there is no monitoring equipment and monitoring array supervision. As long as Zhang Tian receives the general's merit card into the space ring, no one will be able to detect his explosive strength. Even if she met the Fire Feather clan, Shui Ruyan believed that Zhang Tian could easily defeat them. Let's take a detour. Suddenly, Zhang Tian looked towards both sides of the base. The coverage of the defense base is limited. As long as you go further to both sides, it should be no problem to take a long detour. The farther away you are from the base of the defense line, the wider the range between guard towers. The scout team from the Fire Feather clan used this method to bypass the front defense base and come to the back to investigate the situation. Just do it. Zhang Tian and Shui Ruyan immediately started taking action. When the two of them acted, they were outside the first line of defense. Shui Xiao, who had arrived at this place first, also held a spear in his hand and looked ahead from a distance. Outside the defense base, the human army has gathered back, and the Fire Feather tribe who were attacking in front also retreated. On the ground in front, there were corpses of the Fire Feather tribe everywhere, and there were even more corpses of the Fire Frog tribe and Fire Fish tribe piled up like mountains. Do you still want to fight? Shui Xiao shouted loudly, staring at a large Fire Feather clan in the distance with burning eyes. It's just that this Fire Feather tribe looked a little embarrassed. There was a blood hole on the outstretched wings, which was obviously penetrated by a spear. Human woman, you are indeed very powerful. In the distance, the Fire Feather clan strongman spoke poor human language, but don't be happy too early. Just wait, this matter is not over yet. Then the strong man from the Fire Feather clan led his men and slowly retreated. Don't chase poor bandits. Shui Xiao did not pursue them. The Fire Feather clan's attacks were a bit crazy and their numbers were quite large. In the small world of Wotang, the first line of defense has reinforcements coming from all directions. The army is approaching, and they need to keep an eye on each other to prevent the alien race from going crazy for no reason. After seeing the army retreat, Shui Xiao also let out a breath and returned to the first line of defense base with a spear in hand. After returning to the base, the scouts had already sent back the news. The Fire Feather clan's army did not leave, but still lingered not far away, hanging there for a long time and refusing to leave. It seems that the other party is also planning to fight them to the end. This Fire Feather tribe seems to be taking the opportunity to cause chaos. Huang Wei met Shui Xiao after entering the base, with a cigar in his mouth. However, the madness is not complete. What do you mean? Shui Xiao looked at Huang Wei. Huang Wei shrugged. The Fire Feather tribe who fought with me gave up in the middle of the fight and tried to escape. Unfortunately, I crushed his head. I don't understand. This huge army looks like it's going to fight us to the death. But in the end, we still end up fighting with our lives. Why bother? Do they think they can really break through the first line of defense after spending so much time? Shui Xiao also frowned and exhaled softly. Be careful to avoid the other party hiding any tricks. The small world of Fire Soup, the boundary line of the third line of defense. If the direction is expanded horizontally, it will be difficult to radiate to places farther away. On the right side, dozens of miles away from the defense base, there is a pool of water in a low-lying valley. The water in the pool is still boiling hot, and the heat is rising continuously. In addition, there are many trees around this low slope. As a result, this area is foggy and visibility is much lower. Gulu gulu. The pool of water in the valley suddenly surged out crazily, and there was a lot of movement inside, as if something was about to break out of the water. Boom! The water surface exploded, and there was a sphere wrapped in a blue barrier. A group of black shadows flew out from it and landed on the shore. The figure within the translucent azure barrier seemed to be spreading its wings. After the barrier was broken, the figure inside was revealed. The birds, which stand nearly 2 meters tall on average, are the appearance of their bodies hidden within the barrier. The flat beak, the whole feathers are red, and the tail end is orange, like a burning flame. The feathers are shiny and the body is plump. This is the master of the small world of Wotang, one of the vassal races of the Red Eagle clan in the Red Realm of the main world. Fire Feather clan. This batch of Fire Feather tribes is small in number, only 6 in total. One of the Fire Feather tribes used the language of his own race and said to the slightly smaller Fire Feather tribe next to him, "Young clan chief, this infiltration was very successful. Is this place within the third line of defense?" The young leader of the Fire Feather tribe looked around and asked. "That's right. We use treasures like water-avoiding beads to circumvent the shortcomings of our clan. We use underground undercurrents to reach the third line of defense." The elder of the Fire Feather clan nodded. It raised its head and looked into the distance. We can deduce it through the information passed back in verification. This time, the human race should let their young descendants undergo this experience and test. The clan leader brought a large army to suppress the situation, and he did not hesitate to take personal risks to confront the rising star of the human race, Long Tang Shui Chang Shui Xiao, just to give you and the geniuses in the clan this precious opportunity. As he said this, the elder of the Fire Feather tribe looked at the other 4 young Fire Feather tribes. The auras on their bodies were not weak at all. The young leader of the Fire Feather tribe had an excited expression in his eyes, and licked his flat mouth with his slender tongue. Is it true that a young human genius is so effective as a blood food? Yes, humans themselves are excellent food. Their flesh and blood contains spirituality, which can enhance our potential and raise our upper limit. Our superior race, the Red Eagle clan, was once just a race that dominated a small world, alongside us and the Flame Bird clan. And their world was the first to become a starry sky road, becoming a bridge between the Red Realm and the human realm. They attacked the unsuspecting human race and ate many precious blood foods. The talents have been improved, and the potential of the race has increased, allowing them to develop to this point. The Flame Bird clan is jealous of the rise of Red Eagle. The world has become a starry sky road. After the time and space gate is opened, they can't wait to kill and devour blood. It's a pity that they are so crazy and desperate. The human race was also very angry, as if they were crazy. They defeated the Flame Bird tribe at all costs, took over their world, and cut off the connection with the Red Realm. That's why we have to be careful, act prudently, and maintain a limit so that the human race will not be too angry. The elder of the Fire Feather clan slowly spoke. Now, the eyes of the human race are all focused on the battlefield ahead. The Fire Frog clan and the Fire Fish clan will attract the geniuses of the human race and come to us. When the young patriarch and you all devour these human geniuses as blood food, the talent potential will increase and reach unprecedented levels. Not only will you yourself surpass your limits and become an even more powerful leader of the Fire Feather clan in the future. In the future, your descendants will also evolve and be improved. When you are full, we will leave quietly. By the time the human race reacts, we will have already withdrawn our troops. The elder of the Fire Feather clan spread out his broad wings and gently patted the young clan leader and the young geniuses in the clan. Let's set off. Time is very tight. We have to eat the most human geniuses in the shortest time. Hearing what the elders said, the young leader of the Fire Feather clan and the geniuses of the Fire Feather clan all became excited. They themselves are the most talented geniuses in the clan, and they are currently following the elders to sneak into the rear, devouring the potential of human geniuses to improve. They all dare not imagine how far their future will grow. What kind of support will you receive when you return to the clan? He looks like a duck and talks like a quack. I didn't expect that he would sway from side to side when he walked. Compared with the information, the Fire Feather tribe that I saw with my own eyes are fatter. This voice, in this silent environment, seemed to be louder. Very loud. Also, very abrupt. Almost as soon as the voice rang out, the look in the eyes of the elder of the Fire Feather clan changed, and he looked stunned. The tall body and bigger head, coupled with the fact that they are from a foreign race, make the duck-like Fire Feather tribe's facial expressions much more vivid. Call. The big phoenix swept over under the waving wings of the Fire Feather clan elder, blowing away the mist, revealing the figure on the hillside not far away. Human race. The elders of the Fire Feather clan were a little surprised when they saw these two figures. Looking more carefully, I found that this human race was actually so young. The blood energy is very strong, which is very good for a human race of this age. The elder of the Fire Feather clan looked at the two people in front of him. It seems that he is a genius of the human race. I really didn't expect that the luck in this operation would be so good. The elder of the Fire Feather tribe was very excited. He flapped his wings and pointed at the two figures on the hillside. This must be a genius of the human race. He is very young and the taste must be very tender. In addition, judging from the aura, it is only level 1 strength, so you can handle it more easily and smoothly. Okay, Shui Yunxing, you go hunt these two human races and come over. One of them needs to be enjoyed by the young patriarch, and the other one will be the spoils of your first battle. After eating it, you can feel the benefits of human blood food. As the elder of the Fire Feather tribe spoke, he pointed at the young people on the hillside and gave orders to a young Fire Feather tribe next to him. Please leave it to me, elder. The young Fire Feather tribe's tone was very confident. As a level 2 person, it naturally took down this level 1 human race with ease. It has begun to look forward to the taste of human blood food. Although Chong Shui Wushwang, the young leader of the Fire Feather clan, is also eager to try. The elders accompanying him this time are more than just guards. It is also his teacher, Shui Luxing, a very wise and powerful person in the clan. I heard that the teacher killed more humans than his father. Of course, you must obey the teacher's orders. What's more, in Shui Wuxuang's view, Shui Yongxing was his once strong competitor, so it would be good for him to take the lead. It also wants to see what the current strength of this opponent who often competes with it is like. In addition, Shui Yongxing is also a disciple of his teacher. The teacher would let his junior disciples take action, and there was some selfishness involved. Compared to several other Fire Feather clan geniuses, Shui Yongxing is the one with the highest status below him. While Shui Wuxuang, the young leader of the Fire Feather tribe, was thinking, Shui Yongxing had already set off. Its feet kicked the ground, its wings flapped and it jumped up out of thin air, and flames began to burn. The place where the flame appears is on its wings. From a distance, it looked as if it had two burning flaming swords on its body. It sprinted very fast, and in the blink of an eye it was approaching the human genius. On the hillside, I saw Shui Yongxing sprinting towards me, but he covered most of the distance with just one jump. The two people already knew the details of its strength. The two people on the hillside were naturally Zhang Tian and Shui Ruyan. Besides the two of them, who else could appear in this place? The other students are either following the regular army or wandering around the third line of defense, competing with the Fire Frogs and Fire Fish tribes. Only Zhang Tian, who only thought about eating the Fire Feather clan and seeing what it tasted like, took Shui Ruyan to find a way to get past the third line of defense. Zhang Tian failed the first 2 times, and was discovered by people on the sentry tower following Shui Ruyan. They had no choice but to walk further and further along the border. When they arrived at this place, they discovered that there were no sentry towers in the distance. And the fog here is a good place to bypass the defense line. In addition, there is clear water here, so I am going to eat something here before leaving. As a result, it didn't take long before I saw movement in the pool in front of me, and then I saw the Fire Feather tribe appearing. The two were positioned just enough to see each other clearly through the fog. Shui Ruyan also discovered that when the Fire Feather tribe appeared, Zhang Tian beside him had begun to swallow his saliva. In fact, even Shui Ruyan felt the same way. Normally, when Shui Ruyan saw the Fire Feather tribe, she would only have the idea of a mortal enemy in her mind, as well as the fact that the other party was tall and had a wide spread of wings, making it difficult to deal with these concepts. But now that she saw the Fire Feather clan, in addition to the above-mentioned impressions, Shui Ruyan was thinking that the Fire Feather clan looked fat. Would it taste good if cooked? Almost as soon as this idea emerged, Shui Ruyan was startled by herself. Unknowingly, his thoughts were subtly influenced by Zhang Tian. When facing these alien races, the first reaction in my mind is to treat them as food. Try not to stay too far away from me, so that if something goes wrong, I can protect you. Zhang Tian suddenly spoke, speaking to Shui Ruyan, the other party is very strong, and you can't handle it. Judging from the breath, you can fight one of the young Fire Feathers for a few minutes, but if it takes longer, you will be unable to hold it. Shui Ruyan retracted her thoughts and shook the spear in her hand. It's clear, I will pay attention. Just after Zhang Tian gave the order, the Fire Feather clan rushing towards him had already arrived in front of him. The opponent's wings, burning with flames, slashed towards his position as the opponent fell. Moreover, through the angle of the opponent's attack, Zhang Tian could find that the opponent seemed to only want to hurt him, not kill him. Why is that? At this moment, Zhang Tian saw desire and greed in the other person's eyes. It was at this time that he also saw the mouth of the Fire Feather tribe in front of him, which seemed to be drooling. Almost instantly, Zhang Tian understood the thoughts of the alien Fire Feather tribe in front of him. Shui Ruyan once mentioned to herself that her grandparents felt happy and relieved by eating the food they cooked. Because humans are often devoured by alien races. The meat of aliens is poisonous and cannot be eaten by humans, so they can only be refined into elixirs with slight erysipelas. Himself, fulfilled their ideas. So now I have encountered such an alien race, which is drooling and obviously wants to eat me. The overwhelming anger was instantly ignited in Zhang Tian's chest. His eyes widened with anger, and he even slightly lost his mind. Shame. For Zhang Tian, this was an extreme humiliation that was completely unacceptable. You actually want to eat me? Jiang Tian stared, the muscles all over his body tensed instantly, and after a low growl, he stretched out his hands. Boom! There was a collision sound, and the wings that fell down did not achieve the expected effect. The wings burning with fire like long knives were caught by Jiang Tian with one hand. Shui Yongxing was obviously stunned for a moment. The human race in front of him actually caught his slash. How can it be? Unbelievable! It immediately waved its other wing, and the burning flames drew a graceful arc in midair. The flames above dragged out the flames of light in midair, which was dazzling. But at the same time, the temperature of the burning flames and the sharpness of the feathers after they are soaked in blood are unstoppable to ordinary people. The strength of the human race in front of it far exceeded Shui Yongxing's imagination. At this moment, it burst out with even more powerful power, wanting to kill the opponent first. I don't want to keep it alive and just eat it. Boom! The sound of collision reappeared, but this time, it was still not possible to kill the young people in front of him as he imagined. The opponent's hands were extremely hard and had terrifying power, making it impossible for its wings to move. As ingredients, as food, Jiang Tian's roar became louder and louder, and his pupils were filled with anger. You actually want to eat the chef? Heinous crime. Following Jiang Tian's roar, his whole body was instantly ignited with flames of blood, and his arms suddenly exerted force. Tisk! Blood splattered, and Shui Yongxing was torn in half by Jiang Tian's hands as he grabbed his wings with both hands. The duck in front of Jiang Tian. Oh, no! To be precise, this genius of the Fire Feather clan had been torn into two pieces by Jiang Tian's fury, with internal organs and blood spilled all over the floor. Shui Ruyan, who was standing behind Jiang Tian, was completely stunned. Are the aliens with level 2 strength now so fragile in front of Jiang Tian? Tear it apart with bare hands, without any unnecessary movements. Moreover, Shui Ruyan was sure that Jiang Tian in front of her had not yet unleashed all his strength. The distance was so close, and if she remembered well, if Jiang Tian really exploded with all his fighting power, there would be a continuous roar in his body. The aura coming out of Jiang Tian at that time was also terrifying. But there is no such feeling at the moment. Is it just showing the combat power under normal conditions? I didn't expect that classmate Jiang can be quite scary when he gets angry. Shui Ruyan was beside her, thinking to herself. Normally, in her eyes, Jiang Tian's emotions were relatively stable. They might have ups and downs, but they were still within the normal range. This was the first time she had seen Jiang Tianfa so angry. Judging from his words, it might be strange to be angry at others. But in Jiang Tian's case, it's natural for him to get angry because of this. Under the hillside, the sudden change made the remaining Fire Feather tribe horrified. How is that possible? Shui Wushuang, the young clan leader, couldn't help shouting in disbelief. This human race should be at level 1. It believed that its perception was correct. The aura of the human race in front of it was just like that, without any mistakes. Why was Shui Yongxing in front of him, unable to even fight back, and even being torn apart with his bare hands? Not only that, what did this human race mean by what he said just now? Their noble Fire Feather clan was actually used as food. How could it be such a heinous crime to attack the human race? As the young leader of the Fire Feather clan, it has naturally learned the human language and probably understands the meaning of Jiang Tian's roar just now. Not only it, but the other geniuses from the Fire Feather clan next to him also learned the human language and knew its meaning. There are many emotions in my heart, including surprise, anger, and incomprehension. As the teacher of the young clan leader and the elder of the clan, Shui Luxing naturally understood Jiang Tian's roar just now. It looked at Jiang Tian in the distance, still holding the body of his disciple in his hand, looking at this side angrily. Suddenly, the other party moved. However, the young man standing on the hillside did not take action, but threw one side of the disciple's body on the ground. With his free hand, he forcefully pulled Shui Yongxing's wings off. And he quickly plucked out the feathers, and bloody flames began to spurt out of his palms. Roasted over a fierce fire, the aroma of meat began to permeate the air, and golden oil slid down the tops of the wings to the ground. It was at this time that Jiang Tian took out the seasoning bottle from the space ring with a wave of his hand and sprinkled the barbecue spices prepared in advance onto the wings in his hand. Finally, in this confrontation, Zhang Tian raised the baked wings in his hand, opened his mouth and bit into them. While chewing and savoring the flavor of the Fire Feather tribe, he stared in the direction of Shui Luxing, Shui Wushwang and other Fire Feather tribes. At this moment, what Zhang Tian wanted to express was very obvious. If you say you are food, you must be food. Only I, as the chef, are allowed to cook for you, and you, as the ingredients, are not allowed to have even the slightest idea. As expected of classmate Zhang, Shui Ruyan, who was standing by the side, was filled with emotion as she witnessed Zhang Tian's actions. I also feel extremely happy in my heart. Such behavior is so relieving. In front of you, I will tear your kinsman alive. Grill the wings of your kind on the spot and eat them straight away. What can you do? At least in Shui Ruyan's eyes, the Fire Feather clan not far away should be very angry. You can tell by looking at their trembling figures. Obviously, it is already on the verge of breaking out at any time. Just as Shui Ruyan imagined, the Fire Feather clan's angry souls were now trembling. The human race actually made Shui Yunxing's wings into roasted wings in front of them and ate them directly. Moreover, it smells so delicious. According to the past personalities of Shui Wushwang and the geniuses of the Fire Feather tribe around him, they could no longer hold back and charged forward. But the scene where Zhang Tian tore Shui Yunxing apart with his bare hands just now was still vivid in his mind. They asked themselves, if they attack directly, they may not necessarily be the opponent of this human race. Incomprehensible, Shui Wushwang couldn't figure out why Zhang Tian's aura was only at level 1. The power that burst out was actually so powerful. The human race mentioned in the intelligence seems to be you. At this time, Shui Luxing spoke the language of the human race. Although the accent sounds a bit strange, it is very clear and you can understand what is being said. There is clear information from the Fire Frog and Fire Fish tribes that there is a tribe that is like a demon and likes to eat them. Originally, everyone didn't quite believe this information. After all, the bestiality contained in our flesh and blood is poisonous to you humans. Now, I finally see it with my own eyes. Shui Luxing, the elder of the Fire Feather clan, spoke slowly while keeping his eyes on Zhang Tian. The other party was still devouring disciple Shui Yunxing's wings, chewing it carefully and slowly, obviously deliberately to stimulate its emotions. Seeing that Zhang Tian was silent, Shui Luxing paused and continued, I'm very curious about how you managed to kill my disciple so easily at the first level. There are geniuses of the human race who can perform extraordinary feats in battle, but I have never seen one as easy as yours. When it came to this place, Zhang Tian still remained silent and just ate his fingertips silently. This is the last part of the Fire Feather clan's wings. Human race, do you even know how to be polite? Shui Luxing said in a sulky tone when Zhang Tian remained silent. Snap. Zhang Tian dropped the bones in his hands on the ground and finally spoke, I don't talk to the ingredients. Everyone from the Fire Feather clan. I don't know why, but after hearing what Zhang Tian said, these Fire Feathers felt their eyes turn red. It's so humiliating, they feel so angry. Young man from the human race, you are too arrogant. Shui Luxing shook his head, a fierce light suddenly appeared in his eyes. You are so young and can tear my disciples apart with level 1 strength. Such a human super genius must not be retained. The young patriarch swallowed you and obtained your spirituality. The future of the Fire Feather clan will be limitless. Level 4 violent aura erupted from the elder's body. Just the emergence of this coercion blew away the water mist that began to gather around him. Behind that, Shui Ruyan's expression changed drastically. She couldn't accurately identify the aura of this realm because the difference in strength was too large. But roughly speaking, let's guess that there is probably a 4th level above level 3. Oops. Just when Shui Ruyan secretly screamed that something was wrong and was about to take out her life-saving trump card and leave with Zhang Tian. Boom, boom, boom. Continuous roars burst out from Zhang Tian's body and resounded in Shui Ruyan's ears. The fire of the furnace was lit. Zhang Tian's whole body was wrapped in fiercely burning blood flames, and the blazing high temperature made his surroundings look slightly distorted. The moment the physical furnace was turned on, extremely high air pressure exploded around Zhang Tian, causing the ground to collapse slightly. Fine pebbles danced on the ground, and fine dust began to slowly rise and fly. Well, Shui Ruyan, who was close to Zhang Tian, couldn't help but groan. Because she was so close, she was under pressure from Jiang Tian and suffered from chest tightness and shortness of breath. Boom! Suddenly erupting, Jiang Tian, who was so powerful, turned into a bloody flaming meteor and swooped down. The ground beneath his feet was shattered by the repulsive force, raising dust. Shui Luxing was preparing to take down Jiang Tian, but he didn't build up his momentum or mobilize the blood energy in his body. In its eyes, Jiang Tian's talent was extremely terrifying, and he was probably the top genius in the human race. Not just any human genius can tear apart his second-level disciple with level 1 strength. Be unique. But genius is, after all, just a genius, not a strong person. It was too confident and did not think that Jiang Tian, a genius who was still young and had not yet grown into a strong man, could escape its claws. By the time Jiang Tian took action, it was already too late. Shui Luxing was shocked in his heart as he looked at the figure of bloody flames rushing towards him at an extremely fast speed. How can it be? What happened in front of him was far beyond Shui Luxing's understanding. It doesn't make sense. It's obviously just a level 1 aura, so why can it erupt with such terrifying pressure of blood energy? Level 2. No, this has reached level 3. Even if you have level 3 combat power, it's not enough to fight with me. Shui Luxing roared in his heart, and flames began to rise from his wings. In a hurry, it can only burst out with this level of power, but it should have no problem blocking the opponent's impact. Just when Shui Luxing was thinking this, he discovered that the human race, bathed in bloody flames, suddenly changed direction. Not good. Shui Luxing was stunned for a moment, then immediately realized what he was doing and opened his mouth to scream. In desperation, it spoke back the language of the Fire Feather clan. This means that Shui Wushwang, the young clan leader, and the other geniuses of the Fire Feather clan should run quickly and stay away. It's a pity that it speaks slowly. Jiang Tian, it's too fast. The black dragon kitchen knife appeared in Jiang Tian's hand, and with a burst of terrifying speed, he arrived among the geniuses of the Fire Feather tribe in the blink of an eye. Aha! Under the flickering light of the kitchen knife, the head of the Fire Feather duck closest to him was chopped off. Not only that, the sword flashed and sliced open the opponent's chest. The speed was so fast that Jiang Tian was already in front of another Fire Feather clan genius before even the blood was splashed on his body. When he raised the knife and lowered it, the delicious duck head flew up, and the internal organs in his stomach fell to the ground. The last genius of the Fire Feather tribe was not spared either, and was just flapping its wings and preparing to leap away. But it was plundered by the sword light, and its wings were cut off and fell to the ground. The big duck head also hit the ground and rolled down in front of Shui Wushwang, the young patriarch. Human race, seek death. Shui Luxing finally gave chase at this moment, waving his wings and coming at high speed. Jiang Tian sensed the movement behind him and gave up the option of holding Shui Wushwang in front of him. As for why he could tell, the Fire Feather clan in front of him had an unusual identity and was a good target for kidnapping. Simple. This Fire Feather clan looks to be several times more delicious. Giving up the hostage does not mean that Jiang Tian will not take action. Cut. Jiang Tian's eyes were sharp, and the blade of the sword was ignited by blazing flames, and he slashed at Shui Wushwang in front of him. Shui Wushwang screamed in fear, and the blood in his body spurted out, turning into a bloody barrier. At the same time, a faint light emerged from a collar worn on its neck, blessing the barrier. But Jiang Tian's arms tightened, his blood burned violently, and the furnace of flesh roared inside his body. Laugh. The knife struck the bloody barrier, as if a red-hot knife had cut into a piece of oil and melted directly. The sword flashed past, Shui Wushwang's wings were cut open, both claws were cut off, and blood instantly soaked its feathers. Boom. After Jiang Tian finished all this, he also added a kick, hitting the opponent's chest. Click. The sound of broken bones was heard, blood spurted out from Shui Wushwang's flat mouth, and he felt like his internal organs were turbulent. And its fat body was kicked and flew backwards, hitting the hillside behind it. Buzz. A trembling sound sounded, like the vibration of the blade. But in fact, it was the wings slashed by Shui Luxing with fierce eyes. Clang. Jiang Tian turned around and collided with the opponent's wings with his knife, making a sound of metal clashing and sparks flying out. This was just the first time. After Shui Luxing slashed once, his other wing followed with flames. Jiang Tian also pulled back the knife and followed it with a slash. Clang! There was another collision, sparks flew out, and Jiang Tian's hands were slightly numb. Such terrifying strength and such fast cutting speed. Swish, swish, swish. Shui Luxing was not comparable to the cub of the Fire Feather tribe. Its legs were staggered, making it look like a dancing firebird. And its continuous movements made its wings like two flaming sharp knives, coming one after another. Looking from a distance, in Shui Ruyan's eyes, it was like a rainstorm of flames splashing on Jiang Tian's body. But Jiang Tian was already highly concentrated, and the black dragon kitchen knife danced very fast. Dang, dang, dang. In this small valley, the sound sounded like iron was being struck. The slashes of the flaming rainstorm's wing knife collided with the kitchen knife of the black dragon in Jiang Tian's hand. The sound became faster and louder. Click. The sound of shattering resounded suddenly. The black dragon kitchen knife in Jiang Tian's hand couldn't withstand such a high-intensity collision and broke into pieces. There was only the handle of the knife left in Jiang Tian's hand. Jiang Tian, whose mouth was already cracked and bleeding, failed to hold the handle of the knife and let it fly out. It was at this moment that Jiang Tian hurriedly retreated, but the last slash of the flaming winged sword still fell on him. The huge blade cut open his black combat uniform and hit the inner armor. Sparks flew and Shui Luxing's attack failed to break through the inner armor Zhou Shang had prepared for Jiang Tian. But this slash was so powerful and heavy that Jiang Tian spurted blood from his mouth, damaged his internal organs, and flew backwards. Shui Luxing took the opportunity to rush over, but there was a sound of breaking through the air in the distance. Call out! It was a spear wrapped in blood and ignited, spinning and galloping towards it. Not only that, cracked lines appeared on the spear, and the aura contained inside was terrifying. Shui Luxing's expression changed drastically, and he recognized at a glance that this spear was a special weapon of the human race. It contained a killing array, and its power was terrifying when activated. But it was too late to dodge, it could only activate its blood energy and stagger its wings to resist. Boom! The spear hit the wing, and the terrifying force knocked it away, and at the same time it completely shattered. Shui Ruyan also caught the flying Jiang Tian with her bare hands and held him in her arms. The two of them flew out together and hit the hillside behind them. The gravel flew and the impact of the two men hitting the hillside was great. Puff! Shui Ruyan spurted blood from her mouth, and her face instantly turned pale. The killing formation hidden in his spear had been activated before, and throwing it out had already consumed a lot of his blood. The impact she endured when she caught Jiang Tian was far beyond the limit of her state. If it hadn't been for the inner armor prepared by her grandparents in advance, I'm afraid the impact alone would have turned her into a meatloaf. Ha! Jiang Tian immediately turned over and jumped up, no longer pressing Shui Ruyan. After he took a long breath, he immediately took out the prepared braised pork from the space ring. The characteristics of the space ring keep this braised pork in a tender state. Jiang Tian immediately stuffed the braised pork into his mouth. While chewing quickly, he put his other hand into Shui Ruyan's mouth. Actually, it doesn't have to be like this. Jiang Tian was eating crazily and talking to Shui Ruyan. At the same time, his eyes were fixed forward, wary of Shui Luxing's sudden attack. But Jiang Tian believed that the other party would not come so soon. Shui Ruyan's actions just now were not in vain, but were of great help. Her spear repelled the pursuing Shui Luxing, so she didn't have to use her trump card immediately. In this way, he can prepare well now, wait until he is ready, and then use his trump cards to fight with the elder of the Fire Feather tribe. Shui Ruyan shook her head. I didn't do anything before because I was worried about causing trouble. But now that you've fallen down there, I can't just sit back and watch. After she finished speaking, she quickly ate the braised pork in her hand. At this time, she clearly felt how wonderful the food Jiang Tian cooked was. In the state of serious injury, it is more effective than those pills. Their practice itself is to temper the body, improve the strength of the physical body, and nourish the blood. Use food to nourish your body and qi, and feed yourself back. Jiang Tian's food quickly stabilized his injuries, and the rich blood energy contained in them circulated throughout his body, and his injuries recovered quickly. But, Shui Ruyan's eyes stayed on Jiang Tian, and she could clearly see his recovery speed. She thought her recovery speed was already very fast, but compared with Jiang Tian in front of her, it was nothing. When Jiang Tian fought with Shui Luxing, his body was burned by the opponent's fierce flames. As for this kind of burn, while Jiang Tian was talking to himself, the scars had begun to fall off, revealing pink and tender new flesh. Moreover, the new flesh quickly begins to undergo pigmentation and begins to transform into normal skin. His breathing quickly stabilized, and the injuries on his hands healed in the blink of an eye, with the blood scabs falling off. Shui Ruyan conservatively estimated that Jiang Tian's recovery speed from injuries should be 100 times faster than her own. There may even be more. Otherwise, there would be no such visible recovery speed. What a pity for your gun. At this time, Jiang Tian's breath had almost recovered, and the trauma from the head-on fight with Shui Luxing had disappeared. Jiang Tian also knew about Shui Ruyan's spear, which was valuable. It's not as important as your life, not to mention that I'm holding you back in this situation. Shui Ruyan clenched her hands involuntarily as she spoke. Bai Te bit her red lips, causing drops of blood to flow out. Her strength was not strong enough, which was why Jiang Tian adopted such a fighting method. If Jiang Tian had directly fought the powerful man from the Fire Feather clan head-on, the situation just now might not have been so embarrassing. But Jiang Tian seemed angry and rushed towards the Fire Feather tribe strongman, but actually attacked the young Fire Feather tribe genius. Just to protect her, because in a head-on fight, the second-level Fire Feather clan genius far surpassed him. I can hold on for about 10 minutes, and I have the strength to fight. But once Jiang Tian starts fighting with the powerful man from the Fire Feather clan, he will have no time to pay attention to her. He would be in danger of being surrounded by the opponent's young geniuses from the Fire Feather clan. Jiang Tian couldn't concentrate wholeheartedly on fighting the powerful man from the Fire Feather clan. Almost instantly, Jiang Tian understood the situation. Angry, but not reckless, Jiang Tian directly dealt with the genius of the Fire Feather clan and deposed the noble young patriarch of the Fire Feather clan. In this way, in the next fight, there will be no existence that can threaten Shui Ruyan. He can also concentrate on fighting. And Jiang Tian didn't act rashly at this moment. He kept taking out food from the space ring and putting it into his mouth one after another. The flames on his body were still burning, and the physical furnace in his body was still roaring. Moreover, Jiang Tian was eating faster and faster, and gray-black smoke kept coming out of his pores. This is the impurity residue produced by digestion after swallowing. When the food entered Jiang Tian's stomach, it was crushed by his terrifying digestive power, turned into billowing pure and rich blood, and was thrown into the furnace. The pressure on blood energy is still increasing. Jiang Tian recovers from his injuries, adjusts his condition, and continues to accumulate blood energy. Shui Ruyan, who stabilized her injury, also retreated slightly, away from Jiang Tian, but still within the range that the other party could defend. In this way, Jiang Tian's performance will not be affected next. Shui Ruyan knew that Jiang Tian might have to use his trump card later. For some reason, Shui Ruyan started to tremble all over. She hated how weak she was now, and lamented Jiang Tian's strength. The first-level realm is going to shake the fourth-level strong men from the alien race. This is the real strong man, this is the power that she can have in her dreams. But it's a pity that her talent is not as terrifying as her sister's, and not as amazing as her father's. But Jiang Tian showed her what true talent is. At this moment, Shui Ruyan seemed to have put all her emotions, dreams and longings into Jiang Tian. In the distance, Shui Luxing, a strong man from the Fire Feather clan, did not move for a long time. Just because it is now beside the young patriarch and is concerned about the young patriarch's injuries. It also has its own injuries. Although it is not serious, it should not be underestimated. What a powerful killing move. The aura of this gun is very similar to the soaring dragon snow spear on the battlefield. There was blood on the corner of Shui Luxing's mouth and his wings were trembling. From time to time, a few flaming feathers would slip from its wings. When Shui Xiao was cleaning up the small world of Wotang, he had already led the Soaring Dragon army to meet the Fire Feather clan army. As the elder of the clan, Shui Luxing has naturally seen it before. Thinking of this place, Shui Luxing's body started to tremble. What a great harvest, seeing such terrifying human geniuses, and now there are young people related to Longtang's snow spear. If this is not taken down, it will be unforgivable. The opportunity for their family lies here. Young patriarch, Please rest peacefully here. Shui Luxing comforted Shui Wushwang in front of him. Wait until I capture this young genius from the human race and devour it for you. Shui Wushwang on the ground was seriously injured. His wings were cut off, his claws were chopped off, and he was seriously injured. Teacher, am I useless? Shui Wushwang's eyes were dull, and he even lost his fighting spirit. Only when facing Zhang Tian directly can we clearly feel the terrifying aura of this human race. It's obviously only level 1 strength, how can it have such terrifying combat power? He couldn't believe it when the young geniuses of his clan died. In the past, there were only a few people of the same age who could compete with him. These few around them are strong competitors. They have been rivals with each other since they were young. After so many years, it has only been able to barely stabilize one of them. As a rival for so many years, it still recognizes them in its heart. But even he couldn't defeat the opponent easily, in front of that human race and under his weird sword. Fragile. To this day, it can still see the heads of those geniuses flying high in front of its eyes. Especially the scene where the other person's eyes were staring at him and his head rolled down in front of him, he couldn't forget it. It's okay, as long as you devour them, your talents, young patriarch, will be greatly improved. Don't talk about such injuries. Even if you only have 1 breath left, you can still be reborn. When you devour them and your talents improve, you will maximize the upper limit of our race. I believe that after devouring this human genius, our Fire Feather clan will have the same status as Red Eagle in the future. Shui Luxing was determined, his eyes sparkling. Zhang Tian was so terrifying, his talent was simply beyond his understanding. Especially after the personal collision just now, Shui Luxing was extremely sure of this idea. A first-level human race, the other party's childish face also allowed Shui Luxing to guess the other party's age. According to the rules of the human race, he should have just reached adulthood. He was actually able to have a head-on confrontation with himself for such a long time, if it weren't for the poor quality of the knife in the opponent's hand. The other party will definitely be able to hold on longer, and the ending will not be so embarrassing. Young patriarch, have a good rest. After Shui Luxing comforted Shui Wushwang again, he took steps and walked forward. Although the front is still shrouded in hazy fog, a burning flame in the distance is like a fire in the fog. Clear and distinct. Obviously, they are that scary young people. Teacher, Shui Wushwang muttered softly, and in the end all he could do was wait silently. After all, with its current situation, it can't be of much help. But it is very confident in its teacher. Shui Wushwang does not believe in a human with level 1 strength. Could it be that he really has the strength to fight with his teacher? You may be able to persist for a while, but in the end, you will still become your own blood food. Looking at the teacher's back disappearing into the hazy mist, Shui Wushwang thought in his heart. His eyes were slowly closed, ready to rest. After Mizuru walked down the hillside, he kept moving forward, walking. Fiery flames also appeared on the wings and were waving gently. The blood in the body is also constantly accumulating, gradually approaching the burning flame in front. Finally, it suddenly flapped its wings, causing a strong wind to sweep ahead. The hazy mist in front of him was immediately blown away by him, revealing Zhang Tian's figure. In its sight, Zhang Tian's whole body was still burning with flames. In his hand, he was holding a half-cooked Fire Yu clan barbecue. That was the Fire Feather tribe that was torn apart by Zhang Tian first. They had already been stripped of their fur and simply roasted by Zhang Tian. Crunch. Zhang Tian's eye devoured it quickly, chewing the meat together with the bones and swallowing it into his stomach. The taste will not be very good, but the taste is also very good, with the flavor of the meat itself. But Zhang Tian only ate like this to speed up the process, so that it could be turned into nutrients for the body and become fuel for the physical furnace. But such behavior and actions deeply stimulated Shui Luxing. In its eyes, the human race is not only an enemy, but also a blood food. But his disciple has now become the food in the other party's mouth. It's not a bluff, nor is it preparing an antidote in advance to bring some psychological pressure to them. The human race in front of me was actually able to swallow them, ignoring the poison. No, Shui Luxing felt a little panicked in his heart for some reason when he saw Zhang Tian. Even, there is some fear. At this moment, it seemed to understand the information about the fire frogs and fire fish tribes. That is the fear of being used as food, when you become a meal in the eyes of others. That kind of fear comes from deep within, from the instinctive fear of the soul. Death, must die. At this moment, Shui Luxing's emotions seemed to be out of control. The flames all over his body were instantly ignited, as if they were similar to the Zhongtian in front of him. However, the flames burning on its body were orange-red, and covered its body like water. The sound of burning flames were there, causing the airflow in the surrounding air. Call out. At this moment, Shui Luxing exploded with speed and sprinted towards Zhongtian. The wings were like two flaming swords, slashing down again. Moreover, at this moment, the flames on its wings surged like a stream of flames. Boom! Zhongtian's body roared like an explosion. The physical furnace is turned on at full power. The ignited bloody flames exploded with air pressure, shaking the surroundings and blowing up dust. At the same time, Zhongtian's hands suddenly exerted force, and at some point, the extremely heavy bone-cutting knife came into his hands. The bone-cutting knife, which was like an axe, was powerful and heavy. In Zhongtian's hand, it slashed forward in the direction of his force. Boom! A deafening sound of collision emerged instantly, and the terrifying force of the impact caused the air to vibrate. The powerful shock waves swayed around, causing Shui Ruyan not far away to involuntarily raise her hands to block in front of her. The blood energy in the body is also instinctively stimulated, so as to prevent oneself from being blown out. Just when she opened her eyes again, she found that Shui Luxing and Zhongtian were already fighting together. The speed of both parties was very fast, walking on the slope of this hillside, constantly staggering. Sparks continued to fly between each other, and sounds like iron were struck, and a series of uneasy sounds resounded. The new bone-chopping knife is obviously much better than the kitchen knife, and it is also stronger. Just by listening to the collision between the two sides, you can hear it like the sound of drums. It was the explosion of air pressure caused by the collision of two chi machines, and it sounded as the place where the two passed by exploded. Boom, boom, boom. If an uninformed person looked at it from a distance, they would think that there were some series of explosions in this place. Potholes appeared one after another on the ground, with broken soil constantly splashing and traces of scorching on the ground. But if you look carefully, you can see the two warring parties. The bone-cutting knife in Zhongtian's hand kept slashing at Shui Luxing in front of him. And Shui Luxing's wings were like two swords, slashing at him continuously. Not only did it block Zhongtian's attack, but it also suppressed him steadily. Every time the two collide, there will be a clash of flames on each other. The bloody flames intertwined with the orange flames, and a deafening explosion immediately erupted. The shock wave of this flame is the culprit that caused the devastation. However, the terrifying combat power displayed by the fourth-level Shui Luxing and the elder of the foreign race at this moment was far beyond what Zhongtian could compare with. Its offensive is as if it is covered with flames and flowing water, continuous and continuous. The power is getting stronger and stronger, the speed of the attack is getting faster and faster, and the explosions all around are starting to become more rapid. Originally, the two people's figures were constantly intertwining, but now Shui Lu acted as the leader, dragging Zhongtian's figure along. Zhongtian continued to use his knife to resist the opponent's attacks, and the pressure became more and more intense. His expression gradually became serious, and even became ferocious. You can't hold on, young human. At this time, how could Shui Luxing endure this situation? It roared out, which came from the human language it learned. The offensive continued, and the pressure between words also increased on Zhongtian. Honestly accept your fate of becoming a blood eater. Your talent is indeed very powerful and your strength is also very high. But it's a pity that you can only become the blood food of our young clan leader and the nourishment for our clan to increase its upper limit. This is your fate. As this roar resounded, Shui Luxing's attack intensity also increased crazily. The orange-red flames burning on its body are getting brighter and brighter, and the water flow of flames scattered on its body is getting faster and faster. Now Zhongtian has no way to continue attacking and can only continue to defend. At this moment, Zhongtian was under pressure from the opponent's continuous attacks and kept retreating, being suppressed by the opponent. It's over. Shui Luxing suddenly shouted again at this moment. With the help of the repulsive force that had just attacked Jiang Tian, he jumped into the air and flapped his wings to fly. Soar into the sky. It could clearly feel that Jiang Tian's hands were trembling slightly under his attack just now. It was obvious that he no longer had the strength to contend with the continuous attacks. It was at this time that the opportunity for his killer move came. With this power, Shui Luxing flew high, and the flames on his wings spurted out again. Water-like flames flowed out from its wings. Finally, it focused on the opponent's right wing, and the flowing flames were like a long sword of fire. The flames kept making roaring sounds like the sound of water flowing. Breaking flame slash. Shui Luxing's figure suddenly swooped over and slashed down towards Jiang Tian below. Jiang Tian quickly raised the bone-cutting knife in his hand and blocked it in front of him. Boom! The sound of violent impact also resounded, and sparks continued to fly as the blade collided with the flames of the opponent's wings. Looking closely, Jiang Tian could clearly see that the water on the wings was constantly circulating. It was like a flame-cutting machine, cutting its own bone-chopping knife. Moreover, the power of the other party swooping down is also constantly rising, and the pressure it brings to itself is also increasing. The physical furnace within the body is still roaring. You can't hold on anymore. Shui Luxing roared, and his strength continued to increase. It could see that the skin on Jiang Tian's body in front of it was constantly cracking and opening due to the huge pressure. Blood flowed from the wound, and the flames burning on the body seemed to disappear and shrink into the body. Don't you know that when the pressure is at its highest, the furnace will explode? Jiang Tian suddenly raised his head and spoke to Shui Luxing. Blood food. As an ingredient, it is the greatest humiliation for you to say this to a chef. Boom! Jiang Tian's body seemed to explode at this moment, and terrifying bloody flames spurted out from his body one after another. Even in his eyes, there were bloody flames gushing out. The 7 orifices spurted fire, which showed how angry Jiang Tian was at this moment. The furnace of flesh exploded and began to bloom with power beyond its limits. At this moment, Shui Luxing felt as if a volcano was erupting in the human body in front of him. Magma is gushing out from the opponent's 7 orifices. Flash furnace, super power. Cut. Following Jiang Tian's angry roar, the muscles in his hands burst open and blood spurted out. The bone-cutting knife in his hand instantly burst out with extremely terrifying power, cutting off the flowing flames. Also severed were the opponent's wings and half of his body. Yes, the super power after the explosion of Jiang Tian's furnace directly turned the bloody flames into a bloody ring. He left a line of water in front of him and cut it off diagonally. The greater the pressure, the more powerful the explosion. At this moment, after the furnace exploded, Jiang Tian struck out with dignity. Ingredients: you actually dared to hit people. Die. Half of Shui Luxing's body was still flying in the air, his pupils filled with disbelief. Obviously, it did not expect that it would be cut into 2 pieces. Why? He was already sure of victory, so why did Jiang Tian suddenly burst out with such terrifying fighting ability in front of him? It was far beyond its imagination, especially the moment when the opponent's 7 orifices spit out fire. It felt fear. Boom! Shui Luxing's half-cut body fell to the ground. After flopping twice, it lost strength. Ha! Ha! At this moment, the flames all over Jiang Tian's body also disappeared, and he was breathing heavily. His whole body was bathed in blood, and blood mixed with sweat flowed down. Jiang Tian! A worried exclamation came from not far away. Soon, Shui Ruyan rushed over. When she got closer, she saw the situation in front of her and immediately came to Jiang Tian. Are you okay? With that said, she hurriedly took out the elixir and wanted to give it to Jiang Tian. However, Jiang Tian waved his hand, indicating that the elixir was not needed. Yes, kill me, but you yourself are already useless. Shui Luxing, who was still breathing on the ground, suddenly spoke. Even if you take pills, there is nothing you can do. It's a pity, but it's not a loss to be able to use my life to exchange for the destruction of a terrifying human genius like you. Speaking of this place, Shui Luxing on the ground suddenly smiled proudly. Shui Luxing was very proud and happy. In its eyes, Jiang Tian must have been ruined. Jiang Tian, you. Shui Ruyan's hands also trembled slightly, in disbelief. Jiang Tian, is it useless? Yes, Just now Jiang Tian suddenly burst out with such terrifying fighting ability, coupled with the miserable appearance of his body now. How could this be possible without using some forbidden technique with horrific side effects? Don't be like this, it has nothing to do with you. Jiang Tian saw Shui Ruyan's expression and shook his head. Even if I act alone, I will encounter them. If it hadn't been for that shot of yours, I might not have had the chance to accumulate so much blood energy to unleash a killing move. After seeing Shui Ruyan's expression, Jiang Tian knew what she was thinking. Shake his head slightly. But when Shui Ruyan was about to say something else, Shui Luxing on the ground suddenly interrupted. Young human race, will you regret it? Shui Luxing said, as if to attack Jiang Tian's mentality. If you just run away, there shouldn't be a problem, right? Even if you just run away with this female doll, we really can't do anything to you. It's a pity that you were too impulsive and ruined yourself by staying. I really don't understand, why do you want to stay? Jiang Tian looked at Shui Luxing, who was still alive on the ground, and swallowed, because I just came to find you, the Fire Feather clan, and want to eat you. I'm curious about your taste, so I'm thinking of breaking through the third line of defense and hunting a few for cooking. The ingredients are delivered to your door. Why does the chef have to run away? Jiang Tian's words made the half-cut Shui Luxing on the ground stare and vomit blood. Obviously, he was angry by Jiang Tian's words. It couldn't understand, how could there be such a human race? Eat, or you staying here just to eat them? Ha, you're useless anyway. Shui Luxing still spoke, with a relieved smile on his face. In order to eat us, you covet your appetite, but in the end you are ruined, ha ha ha. Boom, the terrifying roar emerged from Jiang Tian's body again. Bloody flames began to appear on the surface of Jiang Tian's body. Flesh furnace, low power. Yes, I was indeed disabled before. My meridians were broken and my dantian was shattered. Jiang Tian looked at Shui Luxing, who was stunned. But while chatting with you, my own self-healing ability has improved. As he said that, Jiang Tian also moved his body slightly. It will take about 3 hours to fully recover. After I fully recover, my strength and physical fitness should be greatly improved. If I eat you, I should be able to shorten the recovery time to about an hour. When talking about this place, Jiang Tian still jumped on the spot twice. Is everything okay? Shui Ruyan, who was nearby, saw Jiang Tian's appearance and felt the aura on his body, and shouted happily. Jiang Tian nodded, indicating that he was fine. Indeed, the superpower of the flesh furnace is a forbidden technique, which will greatly increase the burden on one's body. And when it explodes in the end, he will become a useless person. But there is no way, Jiang Tian's talent lies here. This talent was brought over from the earth in his previous life. He has nothing to do with this world, and his super-fast recovery ability allows him to be a useless person. In fact, Jiang Tian felt that as his strength improved, his recovery ability was still improving, and he was becoming more and more abnormal. The same goes for his overall physical fitness, which far exceeds the imagination of others. Otherwise, he would not have been able to achieve the feat of tearing apart the second-level Fire Feather clan genius. Compared to Shui Ruyan's happiness, Shui Luxing's mood on the ground had already collapsed. It stared at Jiang Tian in front of it, and kept muttering, "Impossible, this is absolutely impossible." He couldn't believe it, nor could he understand how Jiang Tian in front of him could do it. It was obvious that when they were fighting just now, it could clearly feel the movement in Jiang Tian's body. According to its understanding, such movement must be abolished. The young genius of the human race in front of him must have become a useless person. Why can a human race have such a terrifying recovery ability? During the chat just now, did you feel as good as before? Is this realistic? Shui Luxing was stunned. He clearly felt that dying was a valuable thing. If you look at it this way, wouldn't his death now be in vain? Even after he died, he would become food in the other person's mouth. Look, when this young man from the human race looks at him from time to time, he has already started to swallow his saliva. Looking at it this way, his sacrifice seemed worthless. Are you thinking that your death is worthless? At this time, Jiang Tian suddenly spoke. Shui Luxing, who was on the ground, heard Jiang Tian suddenly speak and expressed his thoughts, and couldn't help but look over again. Don't worry, your death was valuable. Jiang Tian said, looking at the water, leaving a note on the ground, "You must taste delicious. Your death has fulfilled my desires. This is the value of your death. Are you happy?" Zhang Tian's words were like heartbreaking words, causing Shui Luxing in front of him to collapse. Poof! Blood began to spurt out from Shui Luxing's body, and he started to tremble with excitement. Quack, 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 quack. Angry screams continued to spurt out of Shui Luxing's mouth, but slowly it lost its breath. As its aura faded, Shui Ruyan slowly spoke, "I must have been scolding you just now. Whatever it is, I don't understand it anyway." Regarding this, Shui Ruyan was also dumbfounded. Zhang Tian was really damaged enough, and he had to stimulate it before dying. However, in Shui Ruyan's view, Zhang Tian was not such a boring person. He made such a move if he wanted to find a joint explanation. Then it's obvious. It must be intentional, just to stimulate Shui Luxing in front of him and make him become emotional and bleed on his own. In this way, the meat will not taste fishy. As expected of a chef, even now I still think about food. But can you cook level 4 ingredients now? Shui Ruyan pointed to the water on the ground and asked Zhang Tian curiously. Zhang Tian shook his head slightly and said that he probably couldn't do it. "It doesn't matter, we can save this ingredient and eat it next time. However, we still have one thing to do next," Zhang Tian said, looking in one direction. "Over there is still a young clan leader from the Fire Feather clan. He heard it clearly from Shui Luxing just now. You should be able to find some surprises from it." After such a long time, Shui Wushwang's original heavy injuries have softened somewhat. It looked nervously into the mist ahead, sensing the movement in front of it disappearing, thinking that the teacher's battle should be over, right? Since it is the teacher himself who takes action, there will definitely be no problem. But I don't know why, when this idea came to mind, Zhang Tian's figure appeared in my mind. Deep down in his heart, he always felt something was not good. Although according to his own knowledge, the teacher, as a peak level 4 expert, wanted to take down level 1 Zhang Tian. Isn't it easy? But the scene of Zhang Tian tearing Shui Yuxing apart still lingers in his mind. The sound of the other party chewing Shui Yuxing's bones was still echoing in his ears. Snap! Just when its thoughts were racing, footsteps came from ahead. At first, Shui Wushwang showed a happy expression when he heard the footsteps. But the next moment, the expression in its eyes changed, and it felt something was not right. The teacher is from the Fire Feather tribe, how could the footsteps be like this? Soon, in the hazy fog ahead, the shadows walking upright began to gradually appear clearly. Not long after, the existence at least wanted to see walked up to it. That young human, why is it you, my teacher? Seeing Zhang Tian appearing covered in blood, Shui Wushwang couldn't help shouting in the human language. In fact, after seeing Zhang Tian's miserable and embarrassed appearance, a possibility had already emerged in its heart. However, this may make it less willing to believe it. "Dead," Zhang Tian said casually, stretched out his hand, grabbed Shui Wushwang's neck, and just dragged him. Shui Wushwang, who was being dragged by the neck, felt extremely humiliated. "Human race, you are so disrespectful. I am the young leader of the Fire Feather clan, how could you treat a prisoner like this?" Facing Shui Wushwang's shouting, Zhang Tian looked at it with a strange expression. "You are the ingredient for my cooking, what kind of prisoner are you?" Shui Wushwang was stunned, obviously confused by Zhang Tian's words. After all, the answer in the other party's words was a situation it had never imagined. It was just when it was dazed that Zhang Tian had already dragged it to the edge of the pool of water. When we got to this side, the view was a little better. Zhang Tian threw it away and smashed Shui Wushwang to the ground. Shui Wushwang, who fell to the ground, didn't have time to complain when he found a duck head facing him with glaring eyes. Thump thump thump. Shui Wushwang was obviously frightened, and kept moving his body, trying to get further away. After some time, after his emotions calmed down a little, Shui Wushwang realized that the duck head in front of him was one of the geniuses of the same race who was killed. "So, what about your teacher?" As his eyes shifted, Shui Wushwang soon discovered the location of his teacher. Teacher Shui Luxing seemed to be cut into 2 pieces, and in the hands of the human woman. The human woman had sweat dripping from her forehead, her sleeves rolled up, and she was trying to pluck her hair by the water. "Whose hair is being pulled?" The teacher has lost his breath, lost the light in his eyes, and is obviously determined to die. The dead teacher in front of him had all his feathers plucked out. At this moment, Shui Wushwang felt a chill rush up to the top of his forehead. As if aware of Shui Wushwang's gaze, Shui Ruyan, who was busy at first, turned her head and glanced in its direction. As if thinking of something, Shui Ruyan smiled softly and continued to bury her hair. Shui Wushwang was stared at by Shui Ruyan, and her body trembled involuntarily. I don't know why, but it was frightened just by the other party's simple glance. At the same time, Zhang Tian had taken out his special stove, washed the bone-chopping knife with water, and started processing the ingredients. The level of Shui Luxing is too high. Although Zhang Tian has the combat power to surpass the level, he cannot cook. I can only ask Shui Ruyan to help clean it up, and try again later when my realm improves. Zhang Tian estimated that after he reaches level 2, he should be able to easily cook level 3 aliens. If the flesh furnace is activated and the blood energy is burned, level 4 water can be cooked. But for now, it doesn't matter if Shui Luxing can't be eaten for the time being, there are other geniuses from the Fire Feather clan. Zhang Tian had clearly felt it just now, just like these alien races can gain spirituality and greatly improve themselves by devouring human geniuses. There are also many benefits to eating this genius from the Fire Feather tribe. There are still injuries on his body. Although he is still recovering quickly, the spare blood energy stored in Zhang Tian's body has also been consumed a lot. Zhang Tian took out the braised pig's trotters that had been prepared in advance and gnawed on them while making preparations for cooking. Shui Wushwang, who was on the ground beside him, looked up at Zhang Tian's movements. It just watched helplessly as the hairless and clean body of a genius of its own race was placed on the chopping board by Zhang Tian. The sound of chopping meat sounded, and Zhang Tian's movements were very neat, fast and accurate. In a short time, the Fire Feather clan in front of them was chopped into pieces. The water was ready in the large pot on the stove. Zhang Tian put the minced meat into it and blanched it. After skimming off the scum, Zhang Tian picked up the cooked meat, washed it with water, and kept it ready. In addition, clean the large pot, heat it, pour the oil, and throw the prepared aniseed into it and sauté until fragrant. Then pour the blanched and dried huiyu meat into the pot and stir-fry. After the aroma was overflowing and the meat was shiny, Zhang Tian took out the beer he had prepared in advance from the space ring. Finally, it has a place to use. When I saw the Fire Feather clan in the information, I thought of making a beer duck. Zhang Tian said, opening the beer and pouring it into the pot. The flame fruit was also crushed and put into it. In addition, there is a jade ginseng gift from Zhou Shang, which is also placed inside. Zhang Tian will not let go of this wonderful little secret for cooking meat and vegetables. With a flick of the finger, a piece of rock sugar fell into the soup in the pot. Full of ceremony, then Zhang Tian put the lid on the pot and waited quietly for the delicious food to come out. The smell is very fragrant. I feel hungry when I smell it. Shui Ruyan, who was still handling the feathers, twitched her nose slightly and spoke with a smile. Zhang Tian also clapped his hands, took out a rag and wiped the stove and nodded. Although we have practiced with duck meat in advance, this is the first time to use the Fire Feather clan. I hope the taste won't disappoint, but it's usually impossible. Zhang Tian said, and turned to Shui Wushwang on the ground. The aliens are all very delicious. Shui Wushwang, who was lying on the ground, heard Zhang Tian's words. His pupils were full of fear, and his whole body was shaking like a sieve. Why is this human race in front of me so terrifying? Listen, is this human language? Thanks for watching, please like and subscribe.